Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Awakened Heartist podcast. It has been a minute since I've sat in front of the microphone here. I had to go on a little hiatus, take some time off from the podcasting. I lost a very close friend of mine, someone I've known for around 25 years of my life. My guy, the Jolie, as we call him. It was a bit difficult. This is a very, very close friend of mine that I've lost quite a few friends, but not a guy like this. Someone who spent a lot of time together over the past 25 years, maybe not as much lately, definitely not lately as much as we did, in our 20s. But yeah, that one hurt. It still hurts, and it's tough for myself. I feel terrible for the family. It was such a shock to all of us. For me, it took me a minute to even start to get into the grieving process for myself, just because of the empathy I had for the family. I'm very close with his family specifically, but it took me a minute to kind of figure out how to grieve myself. This was a different kind of grieving that I've experienced in the past. It made me really realize that not only is grieving different for every individual, but it's also based upon the person we lose. And just made me realize that there's not really a process to it. It's really just, it's different circumstances every time. And there's no way to prepare for it. It just needs to happen the way it needs to happen. And among the grieving process, I couldn't even get my mind around doing a podcast, especially that week. There was so much confusion involved, and anxiety and pain and hurt and all of that I couldn't wrap my mind, obviously, around doing a podcast. And from there, I couldn't get back into it. And I ended up learning some things about myself. I ended up learning that when I lose somebody very close to me, one of the healthy ways for me to grieve that process is to fulfill the nurturing side of me. I wasn't doing it intentionally, but I started to realize that I had this need every day to want to be around my kids more. And obviously that makes sense. When you lose somebody, you want to have the people that you're close to be even closer. And the nurturing part of me came out more understanding, and caring and loving and all of that. But even with my plants, I found myself wanting to take care of plants and just go out and do some gardening and digging in the dirt. It's in a way, it's a meditation for me. I also noticed that my health became a little more important than it was before. And that always becomes a thing whenever I lose someone. Obviously, that probably becomes a thing for all of us. But I have a gym that I had at work. I brought that home and started to exercise. I've did a little more research on some different types of herbal teas that I have found have helped me out. But I also found that I had a yearning for my creative side. My creative side was like on fire. Not only being creative with the plants, and there's some creativity involved in that, and repotting them, and I like to find different ways to display them. If you've seen my Instagram page, you'll see some of that, but I like to get a little creative with that, with driftwood and things, and that really came out in me. I was making bracelets that I think I have close to like 45 different bracelets now, like beaded bracelets with different designs and color schemes. And I started painting again, and I haven't painted in a long time. That felt great. Carving sticks with my boys, just making cool weapons and stuff out of sticks and showing them how to use tools. I built a shrine in my bedroom dedicated to some of the closest people that I've lost, just to kind of honor them every day. When I walk by and I see it, I think of them. I also started today to build a candle altar. I want to implement into my daily routine with my prayers and add that all in. Just a little way of honoring them. Yeah, I noticed that the creativity thing came through a lot during this process. It was like I needed to step away and get into myself. And when I did that, I had a new perspective on the podcast overall. So the point of this podcast is to kind of give you a little bit of an idea on what's been going on, but where this whole thing is going to go. I've mentioned before that this will change with time. It will evolve. And this is one of those moments where there's a big step, I feel. When I stepped away, I realized that one of the big things that was missing at the beginning of the podcast, and I kind of noticed this throughout the process, was my confidence. Doing something that I'm terrified of, putting myself out there for everyone to judge, people to have opinions about me while I'm not around, is a terrible fear of mine. I've always tried in my life to please people as much as possible because I didn't want them to think badly of me. So many times. It's more apparent now than it ever was before, but that people-pleasing side of me came through quite a bit in life. And now, through putting myself out there and stepping away from the podcast and kind of sitting there and watching what has transpired from the moment I started the blog back in January all the way till now, the end of August, my confidence is so much different. It's like a confidence that I earned because I did things that were very uncomfortable, and it's starting to like penetrate to my subconscious and how I truly look at myself and how I feel about myself. It took me quite a while. I feel more comfortable in public. It's weird. It's like a light switch flipped on. The podcast has given me that for sure. But what was very apparent in the first episodes that we've released is fear. I can tell that there was a lot of fear involved, and it came through in the way I spoke. I had a very hard time as I was recording, thinking about how many people were going to judge me. So I have changed a little bit. I've changed over this entire process, but I'm ready to come back now. I'm ready to come back with a confidence that was lacking before. I think it changes a lot in the podcast. One of the main topics that I was fearful of discussing was my spirituality. Because it's so trendy and there's so many mixed feelings about what that is, I was a little afraid of putting myself into a bubble or putting a label on this. But my spirituality is kind of the reason why I started to do this podcast. It's one of the biggest reasons that I needed to do the podcast. I think I have a unique perspective, especially for men, that I can show others that spirituality is not what everybody else portrays it to be. I think a lot of us are already practicing spirituality in some kind of way every single day. We just don't really realize what it is. The older we get as human beings, we all become a little more spiritual as time goes on. And by that, I mean trying to connect with whatever is after this, connect with our spirit, our soul. We all have a little bit of a feeling, well, not all of us, I guess, but most of us have a little feeling that there's something more to life than just this body we're in these experiences we have. And I would really like to share with you all of the things that I've learned because I've really dove deep into this over the past 7 years, something that I've been very interested in my entire life. But a lot of the stigmas and the weirdness of what I believed inside of me have pushed me away from it. I didn't want to be labeled. And honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of people to talk to about it that had similar ideas. So going forward, there's going to be quite a bit of spiritual talk. So if you're not into that and you're not a spiritual person, at least give it a chance. Listen to the next episode at least. The next episode, I would like to really break down spirituality, the trendy word that it is, or being a spiritual person, what that means to me, what it can mean for you, and what it can do for you if you choose to dive into yourself that much, to really figure out who you are, your life purpose, your core values, fixing your relationships with everybody around you. I think I can offer some pieces of advice for those that may feel a little bit lost. And maybe I can give a little clarification to those that are a little mixed up. I've learned a lot of things and I have a lot of knowledge in this area of life, I guess, just through my own experiences. And I, again, would like to share those with you so that you can take them for what they're worth and help yourself with it. Let's just put it this way. I believe in reincarnation, and I think that this lifetime I'm living right now is very important to me, and that I've done this type of work numerous times prior to this, but I haven't gotten it right. My past lives, I feel like I've gained a lot of wisdom through many lives, and I am just meant to teach all of the things that I have learned. It's like a calling to me. I want to help other people find their own spirituality. And the fun part of all of it is being a spiritual person. It's different for all of us. There's no set rules or anything like that. It's legitimately just something that's very individualized, and it can be fun. It can be very fun. It also is very difficult at times too. Having said that, I'm going to end this podcast and hope that you tune in to the next episode. It's going to get really interesting. I'm going to start talking about some really weird shit as time goes on, I promise. Had some pretty weird experiences. And those of you that are interested in all of everything that is weird, all of that metaphysical stuff, please just tune in. Tune in. What is this, 1920? Please just check out the next podcast. Who knows? Maybe some cool synchronicities will start to happen for you. Maybe some cool weird shit will start to happen for you like it has for me over my journey. And what I'm the most excited about is the direction of this podcast, where it ends up going, and all the people that come along that journey with me, and the things that happen along that journey. Some cool shit has happened synchronicity-wise with some of you that follow me on Instagram. We're all one. We're here together. Let's do this shit together and have some cool synchronicities. Thanks again for listening. As always, please, if you have any questions, please DM me on Instagram or leave a comment, whatever. Just contact me. Let me know what you think. It is very, very much appreciated. And I still haven't figured out how to end these podcasts. Some kind of cool way of saying goodbye. And I haven't figured out how to do that yet. It's definitely not going to be the way that I'm doing it right now. So, bye. If you'd like to learn more about me and my experiences, follow @AwakenHeartist on Instagram or visit the website awakenheartist.com.